I think I missed something there.
Breaking news and top stories from around the world of 401k. That's what we do here. Did you know, people, there's another target date lawsuit. Let's see, let me read this one. Another target date suite draws excessive fee suit. The $5.6 billion Quest Diagnostics plan. By the way, I'm a customer. I go there. That's where I get my blood drawn, is Quest Diagnostics. Is being sued. The plaintiff, a participant, is being represented by the law firm Eric Wenzel Fenton Cabasa. I had not heard of them before. Have you heard of this plaintiff attorney?
I agree, not a name that I'm familiar with,
Okay.
or we've seen, in some of the other suits.
Doesn't shock me. I did further research, and I found out that another article informed me that no, this law firm has filed many retirement plan lawsuits, including 2 late last year against some national freight transporters. I think Dominion and someone else, they were the plaintiff's attorneys there. So anyways, we got this lawsuit going on. Here's the deal. Here's why this one kind of got me fired up. And this is at, well, you see it where it's at. It's right behind me in big, bold letters there. I'm going to give you a quote. This is from the article, and this is from the plaintiffs. More than 60% of the plan investments are invested in the Fidelity Freedom Funds K share class. That's important here, people. The K share class. Target date funds. We all know that they're target date funds, which are on average, this is their complaint, 55 basis points higher than the less expensive Fidelity Freedom Index Fund institutional premier class. So if you read this article, here we go again, and I want to get everyone's brains on this. They're making the threat, the concept that this plan sponsor and the fiduciaries cannot choose. They cannot be prudent fiduciaries by choosing an actively managed target date fund when there is an index version, a passively managed version available, and showing that spread in fees. I'm losing my shit, Chad.
That is not what was said in there. It
Tell me
was
why
said
that's
that they
not what
need to
said.
take into consideration. It says that the committee did not take into consideration. The other thing too that hurt as I read through that article, JD, is the whole time it makes you feel like they're going to compare active to active. At the beginning part of the conversation was the share class is wrong, the share class is wrong, the share class is wrong.
Uh-oh, someone's been
And then
caught,
they go
right?
active to passive.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. They're different beliefs. I don't feel that that's really the comparison that needs to take place there. We're going down a dark hole if we start to say active is not appropriate as a default and that it has to be passive. I get the share class conversation, but I was frustrated that our friends at the National Association of Plan Advisors flipped it right in the middle like that.
You nailed it, Chad. They started by setting the bait like these people were in the wrong share class. They then went on to compare. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, Chad, I was going to say that I know exactly what you're saying in the article, but honestly, to Nevin's credit, 2 things. That's the way the complaint is written. I saw that this was going to be a topic, and I've actually gone through the actual complaint, and the way it's laid out in the article is very similar to how the complaint is written.
Yeah, and Chad, to back up Eric, when you were going against me, they make comments about the average fund in the K share suite being 65 basis points, and that they could find one in this index, the similar fund in the index version of Fidelity's funds, the passive version is 8. I went and researched and saw that it was 12, like the 2055 goes from 65 to 12. And then I'm not an expert in Fidelity share classes, but I tried to go see like, okay, they're using a K share, like what is it? And like the article says, and the lawsuit says, is 65 basis points on average. There's no 12B1s. I don't think I drink for that. And I looked around, and there was a Z6 share class that was like 10 basis points cheaper. But so the point is they are when they talk about dollars lost and a poor performing fund, they're literally like to Eric's point, they're literally saying, look, not only is the index solution cheaper, they're claiming that they're saying that it has performed better, which it has been the case. Now I get even more up in a tizzy here. Not only are you going to tell me that I can't choose actively managed funds, I'd be an improper fiduciary, but now we're going to look back at historical performance and pretend like we all have like magic balls to figure out which one's going to fucking perform better over the other one. This is not good. And Eric, you live in this space. We're going to talk about that today. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. We cannot keep heading down these paths. Fucking A.
Well, I mean, you have a good point, and something, you know, we talked about before this is we're just looking at the surface, right? So, and also to Nevin's credit, he's got I make a living out of reading footnotes and disclaimers and pointing them out to people, right? But Nevin has in the footnote, there's two sides to the story,
Always.
right?
He puts that on the end of all of them. We love Nevin here. We're not ripping on him. But
No, and I'm saying that as well, but we're only looking at the surface of this, right? We may find out that the committee has in some committee meeting where they documented, we are intentionally going to choose active management over passive management. And here are the reasons. And right, if they've dotted all their I's and crossed their T's, then that's a different story then. Well, how did you pick active management? And geez, we're not sure. We let our advisor do that for us, right? We're going to find out whether there was a process or not. And that's going to be the key.
I hear you. Process can always save the day and makes you look better from a fiduciary perspective. We totally get that. We'll talk more about that today. But where I'm getting upset, and I'm trying to slow down here for a moment, is it's the accusations. It's like, if you're going to create lawsuits and make accusations, then do them intelligently. Don't go after actively managed and say you should have picked passive. Don't go after one fund that performed better and say you should have picked that fund. Why can't you literally go out there and find actual wrongdoings? Like Chad was saying, find someone that's in find $1 billion plan that's in an R3 share class when they should be in an R6. Now you've got something to complain about. But this shit is like, it's a game to me. Like they're trying to fish something out and create a problem, and I don't like it. I think it's bad.
Throw it up,
bad for our industry. I think it's bad for everything, all the optics around it. I don't have any feelings or soft spot for Fidelity, but I don't think it's fair for Fidelity. I can't believe I just said that. You know, like it's bullshit. Like you're not claiming that it's in the wrong share class. Sorry.
The hard part too is we have all this fee compression, right? We're trying to be more effective, embrace technology, be more efficient. And there's some significant headwind that continues to push back on the record keeping community, on some of the advisor community, on the TPA, the third party administrator community. And it has to do with these lawsuits. I mean, you have to be prepared for these. We've heard advisors over the years say that record keepers can charge more on larger plans because they carry more liability, regardless of how many phone calls come in. Well, if all these larger plans are going to get sued, they're going to have to start raising their prices in different ways to make up for the settlements that they're doing outside the court. So you ask why, JD? It's money.
Well, here's the funny thing.
Definitely money.
Here's the funny thing, Chad. Let's say they are prepared. And to Eric's point of like, if they have documentation, the plan sponsor, the fiduciaries, you know, because this isn't really at Fidelity at this point, it's at the plan sponsor themselves, right? But they could very well, like Eric said, have all their I's dotted and all their T's crossed. It doesn't stop you from doing this lawsuit that splashes all over the headlines and drags people's names through the mud. And so I'd say if you're going to take a shot at that, at least make sure it's an intelligent one. And to me, as someone who's grown up in this industry, these always seem to be the same blueprint kind of thing. Where it's like,
use the same saying again. Make sure it's an intelligent one. Are you thinking that
this go to fruition?
You don't think any money is going to come out of this?
I think they'll settle out of court like 90.
So why is that not intelligent? That's what they're chasing, JD. That's intelligent on the attorney's hands.
Now it's just dirty intelligence. That's shame on you, Chad. The guy who the
I'm
guy
not
who was
condoning
honest,
it.
the guy who was honest about smoking a cigar at his kid's fucking birth is claiming it's okay for them. It's intelligent.
I did not say okay. I'm stating why it is happening.
I didn't finish that sentence. And then told the insurance company when they asked you if you're a smoker, you said, yeah, I smoked one time. And they clicked
They
yes on
said
it.
in the last 5 years, I answered accurately.
Honestly. Yeah.
Did they offer both options,
Eric.
the institutional and the K in there or no?
You mean the index and the active?
Justin, it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't even a share class thing. It was, do you want the index one version or the active version?
Right, I'm asking you, did they offer both as options? I
Who's
thought
they?
the client
To the participants?
in the lineup. Is it part of the lineup?
Oh, that's fucked up. We don't need to muddy it up with 2 suites of target date funds.
I've seen it.
My thought process is that kills this whole issue then.
Well, not if we want to get really Frederici on it. Just because you
Yeah.
offer one doesn't mean you can offer the other. Eric, what percent, if you had to guess, and we make up stats on the show, what percent of these 401k lawsuits end up in some out of court settlement? They don't actually go to a judgment of some kind.
So the easy answer is the large majority of them are in some kind of a settlement, right? Because without a specific case, right? I've been to court and I added up on the other side of the courtroom how much defense had in terms of attorneys and lawyers
talked
and
to that
billable
side.
rate. And my estimate was it was for 5 days of trial, it was $500,000 of legal fees for defense, just for trial, right?
And that's the
the
plan sponsor flipping that bill, right?
well, honestly, it's the insurance carrier, right? The plan sponsor is
Oh,
going to have
right.
a retention amount that they have to write
Right.
a check, but the insurance company still doesn't want to write a big check. So the bottom line, the answer to your question is the large majority of them settle. When defense, and again, I'm not the attorney, I'm not the expert on that side of it. I want to be clear on that, right? But when defense thinks they have a viable case, they will take it all the way to trial, right? But it's a large majority that settle. And the thing about settling
Because it's so
is
expensive.
it's so expensive to litigate it all the way. And then we really don't learn a good lesson out of that case. We find out that fees were an issue or share class. We find out this was an issue and they settled, and maybe the plan sponsor has to, do an RFP for new something, but there's few lessons learned out of that specific event.
Because we never actually get some kind of, few and far between do we get some kind of ruling that's definitive that we can learn from it. Like, don't need to do that. Because I remind people every time we talk about these lawsuits, sometimes it's human nature to like jump to the conclusion like, you're not supposed to do this. No, these are just allegations. Just no one's saying you can't have K shares at Fidelity that are actively managed. No one has said that. There's been no ruling. It's just someone making an accusation that they don't think it's fair. A judge hasn't said that that's not okay in this case. And so, yeah, we don't learn in that sense. So there you go, Chad. It's like the great majority of them, it's such a sad state. It's going to cost them millions of dollars to fight it. The attorneys get together and go, hey man, look, instead of 20, 30 million, we don't know where this is going to go. How about we just, settle on 10 right now and just get this thing done? I'm making up numbers there, but
Well, and to Eric's point, then we don't really get anything out of it as an industry. We don't further. We just see more people see the headlines and realize they might be able to file a suit too, because they've got Fidelity K shares in their plan.
agreed.
And Eric, you got rung up, by the way. I don't know what your acro sin was, but Mark got you.
Request for
Game?
proposal.
Hey, does that mean
That's
that's
the
what rung up
Jameson.
means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the Jameson. Okay, let's move on to another headline. Carson partners with conflict-free Vestwell on 401k offering. I think what we're looking at here is a dawn of a new age, maybe. Let's have fun with that, where large financial advisor firms like the Carson Group, which, by the way, is not a name that I think Mark, Chad, or Justin are really familiar with. I am because I snoop into that whole kind of wealth management, financial planning space. I actually follow Ron Carson on like Instagram, and he does these cheesy little video bios about self-help and doing well in life. Successful man, does really well. But so there's this big network of advisors across the country, think broker dealer, if you will, that hasn't really been big into retirement plan. But now they're thinking, hey, let's get into this shit. Let's sell some of it. And if we're going to do it, let's have our own product. We will call it the Carson Complete 401k. And let's vet out a record keeper who's going to do this. And they vetted him out, and Aaron Schum and Vestwell have won the partnership. What first initial thoughts? Mark, anybody?
First off, all I keep hearing is this, the person's name was in the news in the most positive way possible, and just exponential growth is Mr. Schum. I mean, everything I read headline wise is that they're just,
He's getting out there.
I mean, that I don't know if that guy sleeps. I really don't. He's just making deals, doing crazy things.
sure.
So
Well said. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't argue with that.
it's good to hear. It's cool that we met him so early on, and now to watch this has been pretty unique.
Jamie Hopkins, who is a somewhat newly hired person over at Carson Group, who Jamie's kind of filtered his way into our industry through different speeches.
I
And
like
he
his
does-
videos where he holds
Yeah.
up the paper and it's really bad
Sure.
handwriting. Yeah, it's pretty good.
He's like a good dude. So
Yeah.
he's with Carson Group now, and they asked him why he chose Vestwell as the record keeper. And he mentioned two major things. First one being the ability to integrate technology. Okay, that's Schum's gig, right? That's their talk. They're a tech stack. They're not this old coding legacy record keepers that can't build things. So I guess if you're Carson Group and you go to say Voya or Empower or Principal or Nationwide and say, hey, we really need you to build out some custom shit for us because we want to do A, B, C, and D. Maybe they can't do it. I don't know. Don't take my word on that. I'm just making some stuff up. But Vestwell and Aaron Schum, because of their tech stack, the way they build their program, they can do all kinds of custom shit. So that was one of the reasons why. And the next one is that they don't have proprietary investments. They're not they're an independent record keeper in that sense, which is telling me, hey, Jamie, you like true open architecture. Like, okay, that exists pretty much everywhere, I feel like, for the most part. Not everywhere, but a lot of places. Mark, don't give me that little micro market shake of your head. Oh, wait, I take it back. No. I take it back. You're right. You're shaking the heads right. This is a micro market, small market kind of solution that they're trying to put in place here. So you're right. But I want to ask you this, and I'll go to Mark. Imagine yourself 10 years ago, 15 years ago in the business. And
I wasn't in the business 15 years ago, but go on.
Hence why I said imagine. And so you were like when I was doing it, and you could go meet with ING advisors, where ING was their broker dealer. Oh, twice.
Is it?
I don't know. I'm just doing it because
I
it's
don't
three
think it
letters.
is.
Well, let's let people find out. You could go and meet with principal advisors, that was their broker dealer, right? But they were also a record keeper.
Right.
Was it a strong strategy to go into plan sponsors and pitch you're with principals on your business card, and principals also your 401k? I used to think that would be a negative, not a positive.
But well, I honestly, I've heard it from both sides, and if I want to spin it to the positive side, I think some people also found it odd if you went in with a principal business card and then pitched John Hancock, right? They're like, why don't you believe in the own company you're representing? Until they got over that hump of explaining, like, well, like, here's some reasons why I wouldn't want to just put all my eggs in one basket. Here's how this works. This is what a broker dealer is, and going that route. But obviously we don't have to beat around the bush. At the same time, folks were getting paid more if they went with their proprietary piece there. But how did I view that at that point in time, 10, 15 years ago? I did see it as somewhat of a negative. And most of the advisors I did run into, they felt the same way. They were very much like, look, I I cannot for the life of me do that.
Go
This,
ahead.
let's be truthful here, though. That comparison is not fair because
Loose.
what they're selling is not the company writing their checks. It's an independent record keeper.
No, but they're selling
In your
the,
example, they're selling the company that's writing their checks.
you know that, but the guys
Right.
who are buying it, the people who are buying it don't know. They're buying the Carson Complete
I think that's
401k plan.
pretty easy to explain that.
Well, okay, let me pivot. Would you advise an advisor to sell nothing but Vestwell?
No.
So
No.
there you go.
And
They're just gonna sell one fucking thing?
are we certain, as we've seen many other advisor channels open up their own proprietary solution only to not sell it for that reason? Look what, it's going to be an abbreviation, so I won't say it, but think about the micro market groups that have gone with Empower and built out proprietary solutions for their broker dealer channel.
Oh, it's
And
happening
the
all over.
Merrills that have they don't only sell that though. In fact, they've steered the opposite way, like Mark's describing often. So you may see advisors of Carson Partners not only selling Carson Partners
Do you
just
think
because the
that
brass says so.
do you think that that's what Jamie Hopkins, Ron Carson, and Aaron Schum and the people at Vessel think is gonna happen?
No, of course not.
Maybe they do. Maybe they're smart.
I
enough.
also don't think, to Sherry's point and others in the chat bar, like if it's a private wealth firm, they likely have some portfolios they're excited to shove in all of these plans and they built that out with Vessel. So maybe they don't want volume. Maybe they just want, some plans that they can get a proprietary solution in and create another line of revenue.
I couldn't tell from the article, but I feel like maybe Carson's gonna be the 338, but I'm not sure. But I did see that Vestwell's offering 316 services on this. So I don't know what my point is. That's not
That's
true.
good. That's
What is
fantastic.
interesting, JD, for those on here, do you know, is it a pooled employer plan type
No.
setup?
No.
So there you go. You've got another large group of I don't know how large Carson Group is because I don't know them, but you got
they're
them
pretty
creating
big.
a solution inside and they chose not to go into the
Yeah.
pooled employer plan world.
The positive thing I like about it is as a 401k advocate, I do love that there's non-401k national broker dealers or even regional broker dealers, like I don't care, that are deciding they want to get into 401k. I actually think that's great. I'm sure there's some in the chat bar that think like, fuck that. Like we don't need all these rookies coming into the business. But I think that's great. What I think it's, and you know me, I'm being Mr. Pessimistic here, but when I read these headlines, I just feel like there's this big announcement of like, we're partnering with, and we have this product. And I'm just kind of thinking like, well, good fucking luck, because that doesn't mean shit. You got to go out and sell stuff. And I don't think going and selling your own thing is always the best strategy, nor do I think, to the pivot that Chad brought me on, and Hackler, I'm trying to set Brandon up for that graphic again, but he might just not have it anymore. That you should be selling more than one thing. You should be going to your clients and saying, I'm an independent financial advisor. Therefore, I brought you Voya, Vestwell, and Empower. And these are the reasons why I brought you these solutions. And this is my recommendation and why. Thank you. Let's Mark, do you want to talk more about Carson Group and this concept of record keepers partnering? No. Okay, let's spin the wheel of advice.
I'd like to hear from Eric a little bit more.
No.
On this topic,
No, just
Yeah.
dude, I want to hear your
Okay.
thoughts.
Okay.
Of course it would be me. Dang it.
Shut your fucking mouth and drink your Smirnoff.
Oh,
right.
good. At least it
All right,
wasn't.
Eric, I got something you can chime in on. I got a few little mini headlines, if you will. It's nothing we want to pay too much time on here, but let's look at this from a lawsuit standpoint, maybe. And I'm curious, I don't think you've been an expert witness on a cyber thing yet, but it could happen someday. I don't know. Daycare, and I'm breaking news here. I don't think this is really public, and I'm not trying to drag Daycare through the mud. So anyone out there who's going, uh-oh, JD's not talking about this, is he? Yeah, I am, because we need to share news with y'all, and I think it's important in our industry.
Get to the point.
It's been a little hush-hush. Daycare, who is how can I explain it to everyone out there? They're a record keeping and a compliance administration system. The one we use is called Actuarial Services Company
Corporation.
Something like that. And Daycare is one of the competitors. They're a big one. They're one of the top 5, that are in this space. They've been hacked. And
Yes.
Program grid.
You didn't say the magic word.
Please! God
And-
damn it!
Dude, you missed Brandon. You missed the opportunity to put Will Hackler's face on that guy's body.
Oh god, that would have
You've been hacked. Come on.
So they've been hacked. They called it a cyber incident, but it's not as though they've lost. Well, I shouldn't say that. Lost people's information. That's not what this is centered around. They literally people were locked out of their system.
access their website right now.
They can't access it. I messaged someone in the industry before the show to ask for a status on it, and they're like, "It's been 2 weeks. It's still there." Okay,
Oh,
what's my
geez.
point? I'm not trying to drag Daycare through. I'm going to actually take a look in the mirror of our industry and realize that a lot of our companies might not be the most advanced, evolved, modern companies. And by the way, even the modern ones can fall victim to this. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but we've had one participant get money stolen from them, of our clients. And it was with Charles Schwab, and it was all Charles Schwab's fault. We weren't even involved in the distribution. I might, if we go deep on this, which we're not supposed to, I might challenge everyone out there that having a TPA, the right TPA, with a vendor might actually be a more secure setup based on some of my. Let's move on from that. My point is, what can we learn from this? We should all start asking more of ourselves, our partners, the vendors we choose to hire, and we should start asking these tough questions about what they have in place to defend against this stuff. Because I got news for you. We got ways to deal with it, but if since I'm going to drink, I'll say it. If ASC goes down, it's a pain in our fucking ass to deal with some shit. So anyways, does this scare you, Chad? Eric,
Yeah,
sorry.
go to Eric. He's
I'll
way
give you
more.
my answer.
important.
First of all, I'm not a cybersecurity expert. Will I ever testify against on cybersecurity? Absolutely no.
Pretend
Right?
that you are. Pretend that you
But
are.
one thing to remember is, and my number might be off, but it's 80 to 90% of all cybersecurity breaches are due to human error. Right? We can set up as many systems and as firewalls as we want. It's when that person opens the email that they thought was from them and say,
Right.
"Hey, got a proposal
Brandon's
for you."
getting so excited right now.
Yeah,
Totally.
but that doesn't stop, to your point, JD, that what do these companies have in place in the event that breach
That it
does?
happens, right? When it happens.
So I'll keep the story quick, but I was doing a site visit at Fidelity, and I says, "Hey, I have a personal question for you. I back up my computer on a regular basis. So if anybody ever came into ransomware for me, why can't I just erase the hard drive and restore it?" And the guy laughed and he said to me, "We do that about 4 times a day on every bit of information we have at Fidelity Investments,"
Sure.
which was a little bit
Wow.
shocking, but
Makes sense,
huh.
though.
yeah.
You got to make
Makes
sure that
sense.
process is buttoned up too, because you screw that one up, you're in big trouble.
And I'm not here to wave our own flag, and
Ah.
I don't know if a lot of you all listening in know, but like Brandon, our producer, is our guy in that area, and him and I have conversations about this all the time, and we're always troubleshooting. What if this happens? Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? How are we set up? How can we continue to function with our clients? And you need people like that on your team that are preparing for when something goes wrong, as well as, it's funny. Anyways, I'm not going to get deep into this shit, but Brandon does a phenomenal job on our side for that. He sent out an email today about the Daycare issue to our team, letting them know certain things. I'm just saying, and we'll move on. Let's as a community start to hold each other accountable. It doesn't mean that we're being dicks or trying to drag people through the coals, but we need to start elevating everyone in this industry all the way down to the advisor, the third party administrator. If there's a 338 involved or 316, we should be asking them, where their protocols are around these types of things, you know, and it's not as simple as just cybersecurity. It's also like, how can you function when the shit hits the fan? Because if you work with Daycare right now, you're not happy. Next little quick one. Nevin and Fred, top 10 on 401k wire. Where they belong. Fred's number 6. Nevin is close behind at number 7. Chad, do you know who's number 1?
Isn't it the president of Fidelity Investments?
No. She's number 2.
Oh, it's president of Voya. It's Voya. She's number 2. Yeah. No?
It's not
Who is
Voya. It's the Empower dude.
Murphy.
Oh, Empower is Ed Murphy.
Wait, ready?
Oh.
Empower. Dun, dun, dun. Everything we talk about. That makes sense to me, bro. They got
Yeah, that does. That does.
He is the most influential person in 401k. And it scares the fuck out of me. No, I don't know. No, I'm not saying. We need to get him on here. He's probably already heard I've been talking some smack. He won't be here. So that's cool. Nevin and Fred, they belong there. They're awesome. I challenge everyone, or I remind you, I listened to their most recent podcast today on the treadmill. Fucking phenomenal. By the way, have you seen these guys' logo for their podcast and kind of their brand aesthetic? It's very jazzy. It's very swanky. It's fucking cool. But listen to their podcast. They are talking about, and I think I can say Secure 2.0.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the chat bar know what I'm
Wait,
talking about? I
So
think
there's a
think
new.
so.
I didn't know it had a new meaning.
Sue knows. Secure 2.0 is not setting every cat up for fucking sexual enhancement. It's not that. It's Secure 2.0, I think.
Did you
They
just say
don't
what I
have a
think you
name
said?
for it.
We'll see.
Okay.
But anyway, my point was listen to Nevin and Fred. Please listen to their newest podcast. They do a great job going over this new legislation. And one thing they brought up was what Chad called me today. So let's go deep into design. Fred Reish says everyone's kind of falling into a trap as it relates to the automatic enrollment mandates for new plans. Because what, Chad? This shit's not effective till
2025 is the first year that you have to comply.
If I set up a startup plan tomorrow, why do I give a shit?
Well, because the effective date of the actual bill was 12/29 of 2022. So if you write a startup plan today, they do have to comply come 2025.
Which means why would I leave it out now and then run off to all those clients in 2024 trying to amend their plan and teach them how to run an automatic enrollment plan?
Or at least not have the discussion now. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. We often are designing plans that we know are going to have lower participation, and it creates high tax efficiency for the business owners. Well, that conversation is going to change. What the third-party administrator community and the small market community has done for tax efficiency for business owners, the style in which it's been done is going to change. It has to.
100%.
These conversations have to happen now, because you set something up for someone later this year, it's going to be very different come 2025.
Yeah, so I guess the Chad's nuggets there is, and Fred's nuggets. I never said that before. I kind of like that.
No.
Is you got to think this shit through. I said to Chad on the call today, if I was an advisor and I had prospect meetings lined up in the month of January and February, and I didn't know my Secure 2.0 like front to back, I'd be nervous as fuck. And I surely would be less effective than I need to be, because there's so much to this and so many. I'm not even talking like the opportunity of sales. I'm just talking like not get asked questions that you don't know the answer to. Eric, what were you telling me pre-show? You teach some class or something and people had a bunch of questions around it?
Yeah, I teach in the CFP prep course at SMU, and
Ooh.
already and they're mostly women, right?
You can finish your thought, but you owe us a Jameson. Or go
Okay.
ahead.
Two of them.
But there
Two of
there
them.
were questions that we all come up with, and I explained to them, you have to remember, Congress passes legislation, then it goes to the Treasury Department and it goes to the SEC, and they figure out
Right?
how to interpret it, and then the vendors of the world have to figure out how to implement it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And Chad's already had a million questions, and there's really smart people that are sitting down with Brian
Those two
Kraft
being back to back was just mean,
and
JD.
his team, huh?
Really.
And,
smart
and the
people.
specific question was this $2,500 emergency account, what has to be certified? Do we have things like hardships, or can they take it out for whatever it wants? Is it going to turn into just a revolving checking account? How is that thing actually going to work? And I said, I don't have the answer for that yet.
And I think the answer for a lot of these questions is gonna be like, well, we don't know yet. We haven't, the think tanks haven't gotten together, not on that question there, because I think it's defined what you can take out of that. And I will tell you too, like I told you earlier, like most of this legislation is built around lessening the responsibility of the plan sponsor. So like they won't have to validate that you did it for that reason. But I do know that Fred and Evan, look at those beautiful graphics in that logo. I do know that they
Why do you keep
said
pointing
that
on
the
that, JD?
the emergency savings side of it is the longest, the most lengthy legislation in the retirement plan space of it. So it's got the most pages is on the emergency savings. So lots to learn in that space. Okay.
So I do want to give a shout out to Mike DeCenzo. This could be Jameson from a birthday gift that he gave me a while ago,
Oh,
just as a
very
heads
nice.
up.
Whoa,
Very
whoa,
nice.
whoa, whoa.
Do you want to promote the patch, Mark? Okay, Justin, this is that time of the show where you do
Oh, we're still doing it.
the mid-tro. And you all
Mid-tro?
are going to rate Justin on a scale of 0 to 10 on how he
me employed,
intros our
people.
cast. And then we're going to talk about some fucking courtroom shit.
Yeah.
With over a quarter century of experience, he's certainly been around the block a couple times. And that's not just in the financial services world, but the general world as well. He's also a highly decorated nuclear submarine officer who's broken through some polar ice caps in your Santa's workshop. He knows his way around a barbecue and can smoke a brisket that's second to none. He's touted as one of the most prominent expert witnesses of our industry, but that's just a fancy term for a snitch. Joining us from the safe house at an undisclosed location, the executive director of 90 North Consulting, Mr. Eric Dyson.
Wow. Clap, clap, clap. Wow.
All right,
Justin.
there was definitely some creative writing on that one.
Holy
Push for one more
shit,
week.
Justin. I'm with Sherry Fitz. That's an 11. Your job is very secure. What you left out though, Justin, is that he is last week's Chapar champion. And we are past our charity week, so he got a nice big bag from Chick-fil-A. He got 2 Chick-fil-A. I know it's Chick-fil-A. I like to call it Chick-fil-A. Chicken sandwiches. He got 1 mac and cheese. He got 1 spicy chicken sandwich, 1 tortilla chicken soup. I hope you like chicken.
Wow.
1 filet waffle potato fries, 1 Buddy Fruits applesauce. That should be good. 3 kids milks. I don't know. I just felt like,
There are kids'
Well,
milks in there.
little something to wash it down. A chocolate chunk cookie, a vanilla milkshake. That's probably warmed up and just a sloppy little mess of vanilla soup at this point. And a chocolate fudge brownie. And to clean it all off, little grilled nuggets. Because we know
Diabetes.
we like nuggets on this show. Just north of 4,000 calories. Just north of 4,000 calories.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you. That was I got an email, what's your address? And there was a knock on my door a half an hour later. I got a little nervous.
That's quick.
We expect it all to be finished by tonight. Okay, you are an expert witness. It's in your freaking LinkedIn title. You've done, I want to say, over a dozen of these cases, or about a dozen of these cases, maybe. Well, you can clarify for me.
About a dozen is fair. I was just thinking today
Okay.
I need to go actually count.
Count them up. Okay, that's a lot to be in that environment. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for us here today too, because that's not an environment I've ever stuck my head into and seen it on TV and in the movies and whatnot. But I imagine you up in that little encased place, sitting on a chair, little bead of sweat coming down your head as they ask you tough questions. Let's see. I noticed we talked earlier, you said the great majority of cases don't reach a judgment. But to the dumb surfer, but you're still in there doing your job as an expert witness. So maybe can you explain to me, like, and everyone listening, like, how does this process work? Like, someone files a suit. When do you get involved? Do you sit in that little wood box by the judge, or is it not like that? Like, help us understand how the kind of pathway these things go on.
And I'll give you an overview of that. But again, I'm not the attorney. Certainly this is not my expertise, but for this audience, probably give you enough of an overview. All right. So there are people that research 5500s and they look for a plan that smells expensive, right? By looking at the 5500 data. So there's some merit to making sure your auditor is doing their job. And once in an education meeting, Southwest Benefits, we had a session called 5500. It's not just a signature. And we kind of said, how many plan sponsors just get it from the auditor, they get it from the record keeper, they sign it, they file it, and they never look at it, right? So step one is your 5500 actually accurate, right? Are you disclosing what you should on there? Okay. So people look for that, right? And then if
you're a $5 billion plan, I hope so. Sorry, continue.
And no, I mean, in some cases that doesn't happen, right? So the next step is they will literally use LinkedIn and other social media channels to try to find people that are almost exclusively former employees, right? Because an existing employee doesn't want,
right?
Yeah, existing employee doesn't want to get involved, right? And what they're trying to get is a former employee that will provide additional data. Do you still have statements? Do you still have disclosures, right? So they try to find out, is there enough behind what we see at the 5500 to move forward with this? Okay, so let's just skip ahead to they file suit, and then the next step typically is defense gets hired and they file a motion to dismiss, right? Just saying, hey, there's no basis for this lawsuit. Here are all the problems with the way.
By the way,
it's filed.
you said you're not an attorney. You get a disclaimer. This is phenomenal. Keep going. This is great.
Well, and but I have to know some of the history behind this to eventually do my job, right? And just as a sidebar for that, for example, if I'm going through and I say, hey, they've messed up revenue share. I'm just picking a random topic. They've messed up revenue share, and revenue share was never part of the initial discussion. That's off limits. I can't bring that up, right? So they go through that. There's typically asked for a motion to dismiss. Sometimes they will go right to mediation, right? Can we just solve this and have somebody mediate it and say, hey, here's a settlement, it's done. Let's not even worry about litigation. Then if it moves on, they go to discovery, okay? And discovery is where it gets painful, right? And that's where it's every single email revolving the plan, every plan document they can discover. And just to paint a generic picture, once again, I typically don't get involved till maybe a year to a year and a half after the suit was filed.
Sure, because all that stuff you talk about takes time, right?
Right. So they're collecting documents, discovery, trying to make their, go ahead.
Are you involved in, like, this is because you've tended to represent the plaintiff, right?
Just to be clear, I represented both plaintiffs and defendants.
Okay.
Right.
So let's assume you're defending the plaintiff. Do you sit down with them and actually get a feel for, like, what do they share, like, their strategy with you and kind of how they're hoping to position you, or you just show up as an independent expert and, like, answer questions?
I've worked for enough that I'll get referred. So for the most part, I get contacted. Sometimes I'll reach out. But to answer your specific question, I do review the complaints. And if I'm not sure and I've been asked, we'll sign a protective order, meaning I'm now under a confidentiality agreement, right? So I will, for example, see proprietary information of.
I guess what I want to know is, are you part of their team in a way? Like, are you?
Absolutely not. That's a great question.
Because if I watch the movie, I'm thinking that I feel like that person's, like, they put them up there because they want them to help them. That's why they hired them, and therefore,
well, they think they can help them. Yeah, for sure.
Right, but so let's go to this first step. There have been cases I've looked at and said, yeah, I don't think I want to be part of this case, because there can be a number of reasons for that. The simplest
this
is
recent Fidelity one. They reached out to you, that one.
No. I'm just saying generically, right? I get a reach out. And
Bad joke, bad
I've
joke.
I've looked at cases that I say I don't think this is strong enough. No, I want to do it. So
Okay.
Tony's asking, never face off with Fred. Fred doesn't litigate,
No,
so
no.
no, not going to happen.
And you know what?
Uh,
I'd love to see the other side of it. I don't even know who those people are. Who are the attorneys that defend the fiduciaries? Like, are there famous names that I'm not picking up on? Like there must be like some.
I mean, I don't know their famous names, but there are certainly law firms that's what they specialize in.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it's not, if you go to a litigating firm, they either represent only defense or they only do plaintiff work.
Okay, so
There obviously could be an exception to that, but not that I'm
You're-
aware of.
you're not part of the team. You're not sitting down going, all right, I'm going to help these guys win this case. Therefore, when asked this question, I'm going to slant it this way or that way. So you're this neutral expert in a sense. It really doesn't make jive with all the movies I watch and everything, but okay.
Wow.
Well, they're not going to
shocking.
put you on the stand if they don't believe that what you're going to say is going to support their argument.
True, but don't you feel like when
Well,
you watch the movie, the person's always kind of slanting for the people they're with a little bit?
Well,
or
it's
something?
because the questions that are
Yeah, it's not
asked of them are
position.
designed to get them to answer a certain way, typically.
Now, here's what I think you guys are getting at, and just to help out with that. Theoretically, and it will depart from theory a little bit, right? Theoretically, I'm 100% neutral, right?
Who's paying you?
I'm being paid for the law firm, either defense or
Okay.
or plaintiffs. Okay,
Sorry,
and
keep
it's
going
my
here.
payment is regardless of the outcome of the case because I can't be biased.
Sure.
But there are
How much do you
times.
make?
Nice, Mark.
Not as much as the attorneys.
Sorry.
It pays okay. Let me just say that. But there have been times when on both sides, defense and plaintiffs, they say, this is the opinion we would like you to render. And there have been times I say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give that opinion. And here's the
Okay.
reasons why.
It's not
Right.
accurate. It's not.
And
And then they
it's-
say,
it's-
get out of here. You're not on the stand for us.
Right.
Now, normally it's a finer point, right? But it ends up being more collaborative, right? And it's just that,
Okay.
hey, this is what we think. And I say, no, I'm not going to be able
Let
to
me ask
support
you
that.
this. We'll take you off the hot seat a little bit here. Okay, so now you've done your research on the case. You're an expert, like you know this shit. But do you study it, and do you kind of like freshen up on certain areas and like prepare for this specific case because you think these are the questions they're going to ask you, and therefore you want to be ready to answer? Like, I don't know, maybe they're going to say to you like, they chose the Fidelity case share, and it's what expense ratio is it, Eric? And you say, I don't know, I didn't research that. Like, do you actually do your homework for that case?
So let me give you two pieces of the answer to that question. First is, I get, a truckload of documents dumped in my lap. Okay. And there was one case recently that I worked on was 6,500 documents over 240,000 pages. Okay. Now, does that mean I read every page? No, but I kind of have to at least scan them to see what's in
Give
there.
it through, yeah.
And so reminder, two parts of my answer to you. So part one is I'm going through this and I've explained to a couple people, pick your favorite detective show, right? A lot of times I can look at the surface
Scooby-Doo.
and I can figure out something's not right here, but I can't find it. Right. And I'll read and I'll just get to a dead end in one document. I'll read the participant fee disclosures. It's not there.
You
Or
remind
I'll
me of
look-
Tom Cruise with the baseball bat walking around your office or something.
But then when I'll find, here's the problem. When I finally find it, I can nail in, here's where there was a problem. Now, when I'm working for defense, it's a little easier because, I can pick out all the things they did right. And in fact, working for defense is a little easier because when I want to look something, I get what I asked for, right? I say to the defense attorney, this is what I need. They go to the plan sponsor and I get what I need. Working for plaintiffs, you don't necessarily get what you're asking
What
for
if you
from the
see the
plaintiff.
hole in
Interesting.
that when you're on the defense side? Do you just ignore that and just focus on?
Say that again, Justin. What's
If
the
you
What
see
question?
if you see a
hole.
hole? What if you see the hole in the entire problem of that, of the defense's argument, but you have to focus on the one thing that supports their side? Do you just ignore that hole or?
So so I don't ignore it, and this goes back to the second part of the question that JD answered, right? Do I study? Do I prep? Right? Typically, there's a conference with the attorneys, right? And I don't offer voluntarily opinion, but if I'm asked in deposition, so your question, JD, am I normally in the box in the stand with the judge? That's happened once. It's definitely happening again a second time, but I'm normally in almost every case deposed by an attorney, right? I'm under oath. So Justin, in answer to your question, let's say that there is this hole that exists, right? And I know about it.
Mhm.
If the other attorney, if the opposing side asks me, I've taken an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Right.
truth, and I will answer. Yes,
Yeah,
they
but
did this, and in
I
my
didn't think
opinion,
about
they
that.
did what they
Hollywood
should
tells
have
us
in
people
that
lie under
case.
oath all the time.
I didn't
So-
think about it that way. That's interesting.
It's if asked,
It's
though.
not necessarily just like the expert attorney on the movies, expert attorney, witness on the movies.
The snitch.
It's also like you're helping these people understand the real world of all
That's-
this stuff. Like because they don't all know it the way we do. And so you're able to honestly and prudently say, no. Here's what's happened here. This is the deal. This is how it works, and this is what's been happening. Because they're not industry pros like us. They don't get it. I think I told you that in our conversation. Schlichter pre the show. Schlichter to me is learning a lot now. Like he's a lot smarter now in terms of 401k smartness than he was 8 years ago or whatever. But he didn't know shit about shit fucking even 4 or 5 years ago. Like I feel like half the stuff he said on podcasts, I'd be listening, going like, okay, this guy clearly doesn't understand how this industry is put together and how it works. He's literally just throwing like paint at the wall or whatever it's called, like, so they need expert witnesses like you to kind of be their guardrails and help them understand stuff that they're inquiring about is what I just heard there.
Well, and yeah, look at Mike DeCenzo's comment. The attorneys still don't understand our business. Okay, that's a little bit of a broad reach. Mike's known
Agreed.
for not being
I-
able to express his opinion very well.
I just tried to say, I just tried to say that same thing, and Mike did it in 6 words or 7 words. I totally agree with him. That's what I was trying to say. They don't know what the fuck
So
they're doing.
I would not go that far to say it, but they're definitely here's the metaphor I always give when you compare attorneys what we do, right? The person that builds the car isn't necessarily the one you want to teach you how to drive it, right? So the attorneys understand the legal language, but they're not operators. They're not the ones that are putting the plan in, so if you ask them about what are the ins and the outs of the investment policy statement, and do we look at target date funds different than we look at a large cap value fund? That part they do not understand, right? So go back to the TDF suit we just looked at for Quest. There are elements in there that comparing the
Target
TDF
date
suite
fund.
as we would to a single sleeve fund.
Hit that Jameson. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, all right. What can we learn from these things? You said that when these things don't come to fruition, there's no judgment. It's a little more difficult to learn from these things. We definitely learn the rules that you've already said, and I've heard Fred Reich say for decades, which is document. If you can show, I should say, document properly, document intelligently, document strategically, and that you're not painting yourself in a corner in some way. But if you can show the court that you had cognizantly thought about this, and you were acting in the best interest of the participants, and as a committee made this decision, and well, you're pretty well protected in a lot of areas. So of course we can learn that from these things. We all know that to be true. But when I was talking with you earlier, you told me something you thought was interesting is like, why wouldn't we as an industry start having fiduciaries, plan sponsors start paying for more of these services? What Chad and I would call like make it a hard dollar cost instead of built into a case share or
What
built
would you call it,
into
Justin? Just
a
curious.
wrap fee. Would you
Not
call it
cost.
a what cost?
I don't
Oh,
know.
nothing. No.
Write a check for it, a business expense. Given your role as an expert witness, do you think the industry should be doing this more? And are we stupid for not? And
So here's in talks that I will give to an audience of plan sponsors or an audience of advisors, right? I tell them the number one, easiest, simplest way to protect yourself. And let's be clear, most of these plans, 10, 50, $100 million plans are not really at risk for litigation for their sides, but the Department of Labor tends to come do audits, right? But number one thing, pay your record keeper, pay your advisor, pay your auditor, and pay your attorney by writing a check, not out of the plan. Okay.
And pay your third-party administrator with Lambos.
Third-party service providers, write a check out of the company coffers, right? Don't use the plan assets. So I asked this, you ask DOL examiners questions. Well, what about this? Yes, they will say, well, it depends. I asked a DOL examiner once. If a company, I got you, I got the count.
We got
Keep going.
Keep talking.
If a company is paying for record keeper fees by writing a check and they're overpaying, do you care?
Fuck no.
This DOL examiner looked at me and said, no, by definition,
That's
I
great,
do
Mark.
not
Mark,
care.
hit him up. Hit him up. He did it again, Mark.
Holy smokes. I don't even know the rules yet. I just don't.
Department of Labor.
An hour
Department of
in.
Labor.
You don't know what you watched the show last week, dude.
I just saw people getting punished. I don't know what for.
Acronyms. Don't say acronyms.
It's
Oh,
so
acronyms,
true.
all right.
Oh my God, JD, how do you not tell our guests the rules?
We don't do that anymore. You gotta learn as you go. Chad, is so true. If you could sit with a plan sponsor and say, like, look, almost like one of the smartest things you could do as a fiduciary would be to pick up the bill for the plan. And a lot of these companies, it's very reasonable. I would even argue even in the micro market, because the fees are so much smaller. But you go to the mid
Plus, you got that
market,
credit right now.
you go. Well, great point, Justin.
Excellent point.
I might help. There you go. Okay, hadn't seen this coming. Pivot. Secure 2.0. Thank you. Brandon's alive. He's alive. Secure 2.0 could be the fuel we need, the grease on the tracks to start moving towards more of a hard dollar cost, write a check for it kind of vibe.
Well, JD, to your point that it's reasonable, when I'm speaking to an audience, I go so far to say this: pay for it with a billable invoice. And I don't even hesitate to say this number is peanuts compared to what you're paying for healthcare.
Hey,
It doesn't even come close.
Yeah, just record that so then I can use that in every point of sale I have.
All right, Mark. Close this out here. Why don't they? Why don't advisors and why are clients not saying, I don't want a 50 basis point wrap fee on my $5 million plan? I would rather write a check for 25 grand. Check my math, somebody.
Why aren't they? Well, first off, it's because it's not being presented to them. Sometimes they don't know they have the option and they don't know how to quantify it. So again, it's up to us as an industry. I'm speaking to everybody, advisors, third parties, record keepers, to begin providing that option and having that conversation and quantifying it for a plan sponsor or a business owner. I know when I sit in those meetings and I'm talking to a 10-person, startup plan, and we're looking at an owner who's going to shelter 70 grand. The rest of the employees probably won't put much away. Why not strip out those fees and pay that? Now, I know it's different as you have bigger plans, but again, to Eric's point, even that, when you think about all the shit that comes with it, if you start paying those fees, you are less and less worried about those other fees that could come that are going to be astronomically higher. So it's just about using our voice and using our platform to be able to put that out there and tell people what it means and how to quantify it.
Here's another dysfunctional decision point too, that I'm going to dip my toe over the line of, I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to dip my toe over it, that companies think that, well, we're giving 50 cents on the dollar up to 6%. We've got a 3% company contribution, right? So what if they're paying for record keeping fees? But when you get down to it legally, and you can find this in DOL publications, the amount of a benefit. I forgot.
I really love that one.
Oh, did you see him? Did you see him? He goes, oh, yeah, whatever.
Probably start eating some Chick-fil-A,
Hey, JD,
Yeah.
There you go.
you know what I think?
Next one.
Prize.
To
Anyways.
Justin's point. Oh, sorry, Eric. I thought you were.
No, yeah, let me finish. The
Okay.
amount of a benefit is a settler decision. To decide I'm giving a 3% company contribution. That's not a fiduciary decision, a fiduciary
Yeah,
act.
it's
Fees
like
in the plan
it's
are.
treated the same way as pay. You're not. It's not like you gave them something special. I'm working for you because you have a 4% matching contribution. It's the same as you paying me a salary. You're not doing me a fucking favor, employer. It's part of my agreement with you. And so it's not looked at in the same light as picking up those fees. Am I getting that right? Like it's comp.
Well, yeah, try going into HR and putting it exactly that way to them. Let me know how that works for you.
I might have put a little rougher, but that would be the employee benefits attorney's perspective. Would be like, I'm sorry, like the 401k match is not some kind of like freebie you're giving my client. That's his pay. That's his or her fucking benefits they make for working for you. That was the agreed upon contract. Is my point.
Mark's going to request a 408B2 tomorrow.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
Nothing,
JD, one
Mark?
last point on the credit and these billable fees. I think it's a blessing in disguise, and it's one of the reasons why plans don't often go billable in the conversations I'm having, is because it's very difficult to go back. If you start paying that record keeping fee and then all of a sudden you get in a little bit of trouble or your health benefits go up and you decide, hey, we're not going to pay the record keeping fee and advisor costs anymore. Imagine going to your participants now and saying, your costs are going up by 60 basis points next week or in 30 days because we can no longer cover this expense. I think that people will take advantage of it in the startup space because of the credit, and then they will be afraid to go back or go to participant paying that in the future, and they're going to end up leaving it even though they run out of the credit.
Even though the unfortunate reality is a participant would know the difference between a 50 basis point wrap and a 85 basis point wrap. It would not even matter to them. You could disclose it to them, tell them about it. It wouldn't make any
when they
sense.
see it delineated on their statement, they're gonna know, dude. If they're used to seeing $52 a statement, and now, well, that's assuming they look at the statement, and now they see $80, they're gonna know.
No,
So
it's fair.
when I
it's
was
a
at
fair
your
point.
place in July, Chad, I got a call from some of my old buddies at Bay. Same thing, exact thing happened. Bay decided to shift 11 basis points to them, and they were in an uproar. And they were calling me, "What is this shit? Is this legal?" I mean, no one left. They all just.
You want to hear a funny one I get all the time? Listen in, advisors, if you're tuning in, like the client will want us to shift the TPA's fee from a billable. We'll go the wrong way, Eric.
Yeah.
We'll go the wrong way. So the client, and I'll drink. I got you. Although this kettle's been harsh. The client will say, "Hey, we want to stop paying you fees, and we'd like you to turn it into basis points." And I'll get the email from the advisor saying, "Can you do this? Is this legal? Like, how can you take your fees from the poor participants' assets? Like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is legal." And I go, "Advisor Joe, Sally, how the fuck do you think you get paid? How do you think the record keeper gets paid? How do you think the mutual funds get paid? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" It's so funny. Like when they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that it's happening this way." I'm like, you all are doing it forever. But I'm with Eric. I'd love to see it change on all fronts. It would
Oh
be
gosh,
so
yes.
cool.
I've said this, that of all the cases I've worked on, there have been exactly 0 where the plan sponsor cut a check for the advisor and record keeping fees.
That's because of all
That's
the
saying
plans,
something.
of all the plans that are out there across the country, there's probably less than 2% of them that actually do that. And those are facts.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Okay, let's go chap our champion. Am I missing something, Mark? Have I forgot something else I'm supposed to do?
No other games tonight.
No, this is not games. We don't play games here. This is serious 401k fucking talk, headlines, news, cutting edge stuff.
So my nomination is, since all the other women are out boycotting this tonight, Sherry Fitz is here. I'd nominate her as
Wow.
Chat Bar champion. See, she showed up.
That's the first time Sherry's ever gotten a nomination. I'm sure she's gonna feel great about that. Sherry Fitz. Okay, Sherry Fitz has a vote.
And vote for Mike because he provided the alcohol potentially,
damn it,
but
didn't
here's the other.
I'm actually going to vote. I was gonna go with the new guy, David, and I was gonna nominate him for his honesty as saying, like, he kind of reached out to chat bar and said, I don't know. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to learn some stuff, and I appreciate that honesty. And then I thought maybe I should vote for Hackler because he's just been so witty and so awesome, and I should go with Hackler. But I'll go with David.
I'm going hack, so that works.
Okay, Hackler, David, Sherry. We're gonna need a tie break from one of the two of you here.
Samson.
Samsonite.
Oh! That's not a
Samson
tie.
comes out of left field.
That's not a tie break, Justin. All right, Roby.
What, we both said that at the same
we
time.
Oh, you both said Samson.
Yeah.
That's why we.
both
That's
did.
Okay, fuck. Samson's the winner. Chat bar champion tonight, Jim Samson. Wow, he's had quite a few. He's definitely up there in the Hall of Fame at this point. I'm feeling
yeah.
like.
Yeah, hang the banners.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure, for sure. Here's my goal next week. Not to send him Chick-fil-A, not to send him pizza. I'm going to find a new app instead of DoorDash where I can start shopping at like Home Depot or Target or something.
What's in the
That's my
box?
goal.
What's in the box?
So we'll see.
dude. If that's the case, I'm gonna start logging in as a guest under a fictitious name.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing next
Great.
week. And next week's guest, as JD goes to his calendar, is I'm gonna fuck this all up. It's the people from Stax AI, STAX AI. Anybody in the chat bar know what I'm talking about?
Not a clue.
These
I'm
people-
gonna give you a break on the Ackerson there since the show is technically over.
Actually, I owe one though too. Sorry.
Okay.
They are doing. Well, I don't know. We gotta dig into it, but they're claiming to be doing like artificial
Wait, you said
intelligence.
people. There's multiple people.
No,
Are
it's
we
like
not
their
on the
main-
show next week?
It's like their main dude. It's their main dude.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the company. So Sherry knew who they were. They
Is
work.
it
They're
David?
working with different third-party administrators and different people. Is it David? I'm not sure. That's how bad I am. Yeah, I think so. I think it's David. I don't know. So that'll be next week. That'll be fun, different. Got an expert witness on this week. Next week we're gonna be talking to like people actually trying to bring artificial intelligence into.
Can we ask Eric one last question? If
Sure.
the Retireholics ever needed an expert witness, would you help us?
That would be up to your
shit
attorney,
happens.
but I'd
Someone
probably
has
do
to deal
so.
with it.
Let's
And who
try
are
to
you gonna
help you
call?
beforehand.
All right.
I feel like
all
that
right.
was an honest. I feel like that was an
Yeah.
honest answer.
It was. So.
Mark, you're the
Run.
only one that's gonna
Run.
need an attorney
Keep
with
it
your
over.
stock tips.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
I know.
stock
I was
tag.
gonna say this is coming soon, guys. Let's get ready.
I got you, Mark. I got you, Mark. Okay, so yes, next week that's what we'll be doing. That'll be fun. Thank you.
Wait, last question. Eric, will we see you in the chat bar occasionally? Are you gonna come back? You gonna join us?
At least occasionally, yes.
Love it.
But for it starts at 6:30 Central Time, so it's pushing my bedtime already. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the worst answer you've had all night. I was gonna thank you for being a guest tonight. I think I'll skip that part. Everybody out there, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Last week I said there was no after show, and there was. This
I told
week,
you,
Yeah,
Mark.
dude. I just bailed. Like you said no after show.
Hey, guys, if you haven't figured it out, we're trying new things here. We're getting spooky and weird. Like I tell you, there's no
You
after
say
show.
no after show, I'm bouncing every time.
Then there is one. Tonight I say maybe there will be an after show,
Oh,
and
dear God.
maybe there won't
Eric's
be
just
one.
he's in the
I don't
position
know.
to leave already.
Want the truth?
He's got to pee. Eric's got to pee.
Better-
He's ready to run.
better
But
just-
Eric, if you got to go, you run.
No, I can sit for a little longer.
We
I'm
may
sure
or may
my
not
wife
have
wants
an
the
after show.
Chick-fil-A though.
Let's get it over to her. Get it over to her. So with that, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Welcome to 2023. Welcome to the best show on 401k. You know the thing about Retireholics, Mark?
What?
We just keep getting fucking better every fucking time. Brandon,
Who says that?
I do. Play us some
Okay.
music. I'm gonna run to the bathroom and